You also did in 96, you did Girl 6 and Get on the Bus.
That is correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah.
And were you doing Living Single around that time also?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah.
Right.
New York Undercover, Soul of the Game.
Yeah.
Living Single.
Do you feel that a lot of people claim that Friends took the Living Single blueprint and ended up getting 100 times the money of the Living Single cast?
Now, you what done the research. Was Living Single before Friends?
Yes.
Interesting. I never thought of that.
Every so often, Living Single will start to trend on Twitter, and then that'll be the storyline behind it.
I'm not that much on Twitter, but because I'm toxic, but I would take your word for it, you know? Oh, yeah. Something like that thing with Arsenio kind of makes you go, yeah, because, I still, keep in touch with Eric Alexander, and I know for a fact, nope, they did not get the wealth building.
Right.
From Living Single that I would assume. I don't like counting people's money because I don't want people count my money. I would assume that no, they didn't get the same wealth building opportunity that Friends, I would assume, have gotten. Yeah.
Well, in 97, you were in Love Jones.
That is correct. Uh-huh.
There was a whole thing about your hair in that movie. So you had dreads?
We call it African locks, yes. There's something dreadful about them, but that's a spiritual term. But
my apologies.
Now, the Rastas did it because they wanted to put dread in the oppressor's heart. That's why they call it natty dread and dreadlocks. It's because they wanted to look like the Vikings. They wanted to look scary. So when you say it's dreadlocks, that's a Rastafarian term, or a Cameroon term, which means they're fighting man. I want to put dread in your heart. But people just get used to saying locks, African locks, or just a nappy head. It's dreadlocks. But it was really a specific reason that most men in that indigenous era, come from the Arawak, actually, that was fighting the oppressors there in Jamaica, wore their hair in dreadlocks. But I digress.
Well, you had your hair in locks. And I guess the director wanted you clean shaven.
Uh-huh. And the final scene, he wanted me to cut them all off. And I said, no, I ain't happening. Because some time had passed. And I said, I'll just lay it back in the final scene. But I wasn't going to cut them off. Oh, right. The producer, sorry. Oh, that story. Yeah, Jeremiah Samuel. Yeah, I'll call him out.
Yeah. Did he actually try to cut your hair off himself?
With clippers. Like, dude, what are you on? Like, I grew up with you. I'm Gefilte Fish, remember? This is not how we treat each other. Come on. I'm a mitch here. What are you, Michigan? Get out of here. What are you doing? And he was like, come on, man. You're not going on that set until I shear you. Like, Jeremiah, you're not going to shear my head. Okay? So did you pack a lunch?
Because we're going to be here for a while.
Because we're going to be here for a while. He was like, Isaiah, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, get out of here. If you don't, I've already had this conversation with Ted. It has nothing to do with my hair. And then that's when I said, 20 years from now, I'm sick of this hair conversation in my community. What does my hair or Black women's hair have to do with our intellect, our creativity, our ability to do our jobs? So this is my opportunity as my activism to say something on that. I'm playing a professor. Well, I've never seen a Northwestern professor. Well, you're going to see one today, motherfucker. And you're going to see one for the rest of this movie. Now get the fuck out of here. Or I'm going to leave, and then you're going to be stuck with a $75,000 a day that you lost with insurance day because I'm on the plane. I'm not going to argue with you. This is in my contract. I have consultation rights. Chris Andrews from ICM gave a Black man. You don't give that to a Black man. That's a cue. Well, you get consultation rights in yours. That's when you can say, I'm not doing that without having a conversation. So once I read him the Riot Act, it said that you can't make me do what you tell me to do. That was the moment I became difficult in Hollywood.
Right. Well, you said, I put myself and everyone else at risk to prove a point that it's not about what an African-American man looks like in this town.
Yeah.
So you put your foot down at that point and said,
Yeah. I said, he's a professor. It's what this skin color, this hair thing, we got to stop. Stop. What didn't Martin Luther King say, judging me by the content of my character?
Mm-hmm.
Not the content of the character that I'm playing on the movie, but the content of my character.
yeah.
Then a famous man that we revere today, who was public enemy number one when he was alive, but we revere today that love and that principles of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't understand that yet again, colorism made me become an actor because I wanted to prove my point with being a dark-skinned actor without good hair. And now I'm sitting here with my Jewish brother coming up at me saying, like, you got this curly hair, full beard. You look like Jesus Christ, whatever. And you want me to cut my hair? I should be cutting your hair. Like, come on, man. We're not doing that. He was embarrassed. And I say his name because I know I got respect and love for him. But I don't know who sent him. Maybe somebody else sent him to this day. Maybe he'll come on your show and say, I said nothing, they got it all wrong. They sent me in there, whatever. Didn't get it right, dude. We almost 60 years old, whatever. But yeah, I wanted to end that nonsense. And in fact, it went as far until by the time I got to, that followed me. By the time I got to Grey's Anatomy, that followed me.
Right.
Because they said, oh, wow, you got this thing about your hair. And even Sean at the time wanted me to have an afro and a goatee. And that was the moment I cut it because I said, okay, now I'm playing leading man. That fight about the hair and facial hair is over because I win. Now, literally, 20 years, from 1986 to 2006, I won. I get to play at the height of my intellect. I get to play a character, a human being that represents power and elegance at the height of my intellect. So there's no more struggle about the hair. And I remember Sheldon looked at me, she said, I've just been fighting the network for 24 hours for you to have your afro look like Ben Carson and blah, 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 blah. And you shave? And I said, yeah, because that was part of the plan. I said, I'll give up my locks. I'll give up this look when you stop treating me like it should be it's an issue. Mm. When you stop making it an issue, then I will no longer make it an issue.
Well, that next year in 98, you were in Bulworth.
Kept my locks in for that.
In retrospect.
I'm getting ready for you because you've done your research. I'm getting ready for you.
I've done my research. So I remember seeing that movie. This was, 25 years ago. And I remember I did some searches on this movie beforehand because I wanted to see if I was the only one that kind of felt this way. And Complex did a list of the most racist movies of all time. And Bulworth was number 9 on that list.
Really?
And here's how they described it. They said, what happens when a middle-aged white politician picks up the mic and starts rapping about the ills of society? The most embarrassing and racially insensitive 2 hours ever committed to celluloid. That's what. Have you ever heard that before?
Never.
Never.
I will say this. They didn't get it. They didn't get it.
Because Warren Beatty plays a politician who becomes a rapper.
If you release
sort of
Bulworth in 2019, or even release Bulworth right now, well, it didn't do well then. If you released it right now, or during any political season, it would resonate. It's still relevant.
You think that you could put out a Bulworth in 2022?
I do.
Really?
Yeah, I do. And here's why. I know for
a middle-aged white man.
That was the satire.
The satire.
The truth is like George Bernard Shaw. It's like once you get their mouths open and laughing at me, then I can slip some truth in there while your mouth is open. He knew that he was Warren Beatty, for crying out loud. He was older. He's not the Warren Beatty from Reds. He's not the Warren Beatty from Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
He was completely putting himself on the line. In fact, for 8 months, no one knew what that movie was about. They were calling me and Don Cheadle, asking us, to imagine 20th Century Fox calling these little black men, asking us what the movie was about. He would give us steno pad. We did that. We shot the movie for 8 months. I had run out of money. And the reason I know he wasn't racist, that he wasn't racist.
Well, I'm not saying he was racist.
Well, the reason I know the
whole
intent,
the movie in and of itself.
well, the reason I know the intent, now that's Jeremy Pisker, for the writer, who, again, I have problems with people that are writing about what they don't know. And I let him have it, and here's how I did that. Mark Tinker is a friend of mine, who's a famous director in New York, NYPD Blue. And I was one of the highest rated episodes where I gave my Tupac homage. I played a character that was bald and he was wilding out. You know, this character, Steve White, and I get shot in there. And it was biggest thing since World Series, right? But I always was professional, kept my relationships with people who treated me with respect. I always show love and respect to them. So I had a problem with the script. You know, Warren wanted to call me the N-word.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't Warren, it was the writer, Jeremy Pisker wrote it. He thought it was funny, he thought it was cool. I didn't think it was cool. So I went to Amir Baraka and I said, wow, you know, at the time, the term that everybody was using was, you know, you're real, N-I-G-G-A, right? That was like a real. And I was like, you know, Baba, he's in the movie. Amir Baraka, I'm like, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to negotiate this? It's Warren Beatty. I don't want to play this role. I don't want, like, this is going to live forever. How am I going to do this? You know who I am? He says, well, son, you know, if you look at the root word of real, it means royal. So if you're saying royal, then you're saying the brother is a royal. Whatever. So that's what he hit me with. And I'm like,
yeah, okay.
So if I put the word real on it, then that lessens the blow of the N-word. So anyway, we're moving through that. I know I got to get Warren's attention because I really feel he's a good dude. He gave me this role. He wanted Tretch. He wanted Dennis Rodman for that role. And, you know, I barely got in. You know, I guess my conversation, he was fascinated with Spike. Why could you work with Spike? He's an anti-Semite. I'm like, well, no, he's just an asshole, like you, Clint Eastwood. You guys are arrogant. You guys are assholes. He's not racial. He's just confident. And with confident men, they call us assholes, right? And then he was like, did you just call me an asshole? Yeah, you got the job. I said, I don't know if I did, Mr. B. I would call Mr. E or Mr. B or whatever. I never called him by their name. But he liked having me around, and he ended up being a great mentor. Two things happened. I went to go get a prop, a rubber clock, knowing that I had to get his attention. And he had already, you know, was being weird about this scene coming up with Hallie. He's dating my sister. He had my character doing coke, and he was doing coke. You know the movie. Everybody's coked up. And I said, well, this is what's going to really happen if you both coked up and you somewhere in South Central. You're in Compton. It don't matter whether you're a senator. And, you know, Oliver Platt was like, well, you can't do that. You know, it's like he's the man. You know, he's a white. He never said it, but he's a senator. And I'm like, nah, if he hitting on my sister, then we both coked up, and I got a gun. So in the rehearsal on that day, we rehearsed the scene. Nobody knew I had this rubber gun. And Hallie was there, Don Cheadle. It was 200, like 100, like 50 extras, like a lot of people on the set. Vittorio Storaro, the great DP, was there. Mr. Vittorio Storaro with his ascot and his beret, playing with his life. It was a theatrical moment. And I knew I had to get this man's attention to make my point. Took a huge risk. So we calls action. And he says, yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to F your sister, and this is this. He's improvising all this stuff, what he going to do to my sister. Real plantation mentality shit, right? And I'm standing there, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And yeah, he goes with the N-word. Right on his chest. The room, everybody was like, oh my God, Isaiah's got a gun. Everything stops, but here's a good point. Warren looks at me. He knows it's not a real gun because he's had a gun pulled on him. He used to hang out with Hugh P. Newton. He tells me this later.
Okay.
So he stands there and he folds his arm. Well, I still got the gun, the rubber gun, on his chest. Everybody thought I've lost my mind. And he says, you said that I could say this word. And I said, no. You said you could say this word to someone like me. But if I'm someone like me in real life, this is what happens when you're racist.
Mm.
We both dead. He says, yeah, but I can. I said, but I'm taking you with me. It doesn't matter. You don't get to be disrespectful in my house if I'm playing that guy. We both are kings. So what are you going to do? We're talking. I still got the gun on. Everybody's, ah! He goes, everybody out. First AD, they don't know what to call the police. They don't know what's happening here. Warren, he never blinks. He never stops looking at me. He says, I said, everybody out. Nobody moves. The extra screams. Yeah, scary now. Halle Berry's like, you destroy your career. You're an asshole. I can't help you anymore. And she leaves. Don Cheadle's like, you'll never be in Marvel. You're an asshole. You out of here. What are you doing? It's not that sensible. You are your fucking principal. Fuck. Making a point, you'll never make any money.
You'll never be in Marvel.
You'll never be in Marvel with this behavior. Like, what are you doing? You got a gun. They thought it was real. They got a gun on Warren Beatty. And no one leaves. Finally, slowly, the crew figures, let's listen to Warren. Warren's got this. I'm still there. I'm locked on this dude. Until everybody leaves. And he says, I said fucking everybody. Then all his crew, all the white crew, they coupled up the cameras. But Taurus, it's just he and I alone. Now, after about 10 minutes, I put it down, turn it around, hand it to him. And he says, I know it wasn't real. And I also told Jeremy, you weren't gonna fucking go for this. He invites him back to the trailer. He's a vegan, a vegetarian. Hey, come on, I want to trade. You want some carrots, broccoli? Let's talk about this. So now, we come off this actual club, somewhere in LA. We're going back to the trailer, and we're laughing and slapping each other on the back. And everybody is like,
what just happened?
What is going on? And we're just cackling, man. Just laughing. It's funny. Like, let me tell you the story about Pete, dude. I said one day, if you survive, I'll get the $100 bill out the fan, and you come back. And I said, I never went back to that place. And $100 bill there, he died before me, and blah, 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 blah. He was just chirping about his civil rights activism, how he made this. He's making this movie. So when one day, when black people wake up, they won't kill his kids.
That's what he said.
That's why he said he made Bulworth.
Okay.
He said, I'm making this movie, and if we put it in a vault, hopefully when black people finally wake up to what is happening to them in this country, in the world, they won't kill my kids. He told me that later when I was in London with my wife doing some ADR for another movie I did in Namibia. But at that point, he laughed in the set and said, I told you Isaiah wasn't going to go for that. He said, and Jeremy's like, but this is what they say. This is how I was like, this is how we talk? Are you really, are you really going to say this to me? I'm like, this is maybe how we talk to each other, but because of that word, as toxic as it is, we had to make it something that made sense for us in our community. You don't get to just say that by being who you are. That's before the term, that's triggering. This is what will happen, especially if the guy's under the influence. And I said, since we're not going to do the scene that way, because now I have all the power, the character lives, he doesn't get killed, then we have to figure out, how we're going to do this scene. So we shot it, and, we did it differently. And I said, well, you're a real, and he said, oh, you're a real, and we put the real in. If you go watch it again, I think they probably edited out the word real. He probably still got calling me the N-word anyway. But when we did the scene, we would call each other real niggas. You're a real nigga. Oh, you're a real nigga. I was like, are you a real nigga? So that was worth it, is that the education at a global level, because this movie goes around the world. And I was always sensitive to how, since I'm only an African-American man in this lifetime, I was sensitive to how African-American men are going to be presented around the world. That was important to me. Maybe too important, but here we are. We're talking about it today.